Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for some social distancing story time. You just got Mommy solo today. The kids ditched again. They're out on a picnic. It is a beautiful sunny day here. The flowers are starting to come out. Can I show off my flowers? I'm really excited. Look, I've got some azaleas out here, some lilacs coming up. There are some strawberries out there in the garden. A rose bush is thinking about coming up. It's kind of nice to be surrounded by some stuff that's growing and some sunshine that's sticking around for a little while, at least where we are here. So the kids are out enjoying it. They're having a picnic lunch. So I'm going to read you a couple of books for story time, and then the kids will probably watch it on the iPad in the morning because that's what they did this morning. Which was okay with me because then I got to do some yoga. All right, so this book, I think this used to be our grandmother's book, my mom's book, when she was a kid. The Happy Bears. It's from the Tiny Elf Library. It's so delicate. I have to be really careful turning the pages. Make sure I don't rip anything. The Happy Bears by Ruth V. Stanley. Pictures by Charlotte Carlson. Mama and Papa Bear and Baby Bear all lived in the forest, but instead of living in a house as the other bears did, do you know bears that live in houses? I don't either. They spent all their time going on picnics. What a perfect book to pick for today because the girls are on a picnic. As soon as the sun was up in the morning, they would start out, Papa Bear carrying the picnic basket and whistling a happy tune. When they found a place they all liked, Mama Bear would unpack the picnic basket and Baby Bear would put down cushions to sit on. Then Papa Bear would take his fishing pole and go fishing. "This is better than staying in the house all day," he would say. Later, Mama Bear would spread out the tablecloth and put out the picnic sandwiches and cake and fruit, and they would all eat until they couldn't hold any more. That's how much I like to eat too. Yeah, until I'm almost a little bit sick. After lunch, Baby Bear would go wading in the stream, and Mama Bear would sit on the bank and make daisy chains. They were as happy as could be. Papa Bear would usually take a nap in the afternoon, and Mama Bear would sit and knit until he woke up. Then they would have a picnic supper. The three bears were all very happy living this way. As long as the sun was shining and the days were nice and warm, they had nothing to worry about. But one day when Papa Bear woke up from his nap, the sun was not shining, and there was a strong wind blowing. "My, it seems cold," said Papa Bear. Suddenly it got very dark, and there was a loud thunderclap. "Papa," cried Baby Bear, "I'm scared," and he climbed up a tree. Then it began to rain, big, heavy drops, and the bear family was soon dripping wet. "We must hurry and get out of the rain," said Papa Bear. "But where can we go?" said Mama Bear. "If only we had a nice warm house to go to." "Uh-oh, I don't like this kind of picnic," said Baby Bear. I wouldn't really like that kind either. They hurried through the woods, and suddenly Papa Bear saw something among the trees. "Look," he cried, "a house!" Mama Bear went to the door. There was a sign on it that said, "For sale. Please come in." Well, that was fortuitous. It's another vocabulary word for you. Fortuitous means lucky, good fortune. Papa Bear looked under the doormat and there was a key. So they opened the door and went in. "Here we are," said Papa Bear, "safe and sound." "This house is just right for us," said Mama Bear. "I'd like to stay here," said Baby Bear. That night they all put on pajamas that they found in the bedrooms and slept cozily in the nice warm beds. "My," said Baby Bear, "I didn't know living in a house was so much fun." The next morning, Mrs. Bear swept the floor and made the house clean and tidy, and Papa Bear put on his hat and went whistling off to work like other Papa Bears. Papa Bear likes to whistle. And Baby Bear played in the big sandbox he found in the yard. "I like picnics," he said, "but homes are fun too." There you go. The moral of that story is just wander inside a home, apparently. Okay, let's try Kellan's Jungle Adventure now. This is another one of Evie's books from her KiwiCrate. One day, Kellan the koala, Ella the alligator, and Peter the parrot were playing in the leafy green trees. I know, said Ella. Let's pretend that we're exploring the jungle. Great idea, said Kellan. We can make believe we're jungle animals. Woohoo, cheered Peter. I know just what I want to be. I'm a toucan, he called. Check out my rainbow nose. Squawk, squawk, squawk. I know exactly what I want to be, said Ella. Be right back. What do you think Ella's going to be? Ta-da, she shouted. I'm a crocodile. She's normally an alligator. They're pretty similar. But Ella, you look the same, said Kellan. Nope, said Ella. Look at my nose. It's longer and pointier now, see? Oh, that's the difference between crocodiles and alligators. Pointier noses. Chomp, chomp, chomp. I know what I'm going to be, said Kellan. Can you guess what it is? Is it a lion, asked Ella. No, this animal is gray like me, said Kellan. Is it a mouse, asked Peter. That's a good guess. No, this animal is big, even bigger than me, said Kellan. Is it a hippo, asked Ella. I think I know what it is. No, this animal has super ears like me, said Kellan. Do you see what that is? That's my guess. Ella and Peter thought and thought. Then they spotted Artie. Elephants are big and gray and have super ears, said Ella. And they live in the jungle, shouted Peter. You got it, cried Kellan. Look at my trunk. It's just like Artie's. Toot, toot, toot. Is that what elephants sound like? I think they sound kind of like squawk, squawk, chomp, chomp, toot, toot. And off they went, ready for a jungle adventure. That was cool, though. I didn't know that was the difference between crocodiles and alligators, did you? That one has a longer snout? Crocodiles have a longer snout, I guess. I Love My Mommy Because by Laurel Porter-Gaylord, pictures by Ashley Wolff. I love my mommy because she reads me stories. We'll read the story to this one first, and then we'll come back. There's some more stuff you can learn in this book. She listens when I talk. She feeds me when I'm hungry. She keeps me nice and clean. She takes me for a ride. I love my mommy because she swims with me. Does your mommy swim with you sometimes? She gives me great big hugs. She keeps me safe and warm. We've been doing a lot of snuggle time recently. Both girls have wanted a lot of snuggles recently. She takes me for a walk. She lets me play in the mud. She is big and strong. She comes when I call. I love my mommy because she's not afraid of the dark. She tucks me in. She rocks me to sleep. I love my mommy, and my mommy loves me. So what's cool, we'll go back and we can learn what all of these animals are and then what you call the baby version of that animal. So this picture, the mummy is a cat and the baby is called a kitten. This is a mummy sheep or a ewe, and her baby is called a lamb. This is a mummy deer, or you could call her a doe. That's what a girl deer is called. And this baby is a fawn. This is a koala bear, and her baby is called a joey. Did you know that? Yeah, it's like a boy's name. And then over here we've got a sea lion. And I believe the girl sea lion is a sea lion cow. And the baby is a pup. Then there's a bottlenose dolphin and her calf. And this is a big gray whale, and her baby is also called a calf. This is a mama panda bear and her cub, and a mama polar bear and her baby cub. The mama chicken is called a hen, and her babies are called chicks. The mama pig, or you could call her a sow, and she has baby piglets. The mama elephant, and she has a calf too. And then, hey, look, it's another alligator. The mama alligator and her young. And do you know that alligators come out of eggs just like chickens do? Yeah, reptiles come out of eggs. Isn't that interesting? This is the mama raccoon and her baby cub. A mama skunk and her babies, they're just called her young. Here's another deer and its baby fawn, and a great horned owl and her chicks in the nest. And just like with the koala bear, this is a mama kangaroo and her baby Joey, and a mama sea otter, and her baby is called a pup. And that's just a regular mummy and baby. All right, the last book for today, a big long one, and book number 4 in the Mercy Watson series, Mercy Watson, Princess in Disguise, by Kate DiCamillo, illustrated by Chris Van Dusen. We are loving these Mercy Watson books. Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson have a pig named Mercy. Mr. Watson, Mrs. Watson, and Mercy live together in a house at 54 Decawoo Drive. One October afternoon, in the living room of the house on Decawoo Drive, Mrs. Watson had an idea. "Darling," said Mrs. Watson. "Yes," said Mr. Watson. "Halloween is coming." "It most certainly is," said Mr. Watson. "I believe that Mercy should dress up," said Mrs. Watson. Mercy opened one eye. "I believe that Mercy should dress up and go trick-or-treating," said Mrs. Watson. Mercy opened both eyes. She liked very much the sound of the word treating. "What a splendid idea," said Mr. Watson, "but what should Mercy be?" Chapter 2. "Should Mercy be a ghost?" said Mr. Watson. "I don't think so," said Mrs. Watson. "A pumpkin?" "Not quite right," said Mrs. Watson. "A pirate? A robot? A witch?" "No, no, no," said Mrs. Watson. Mercy sighed. She closed her eyes. She fell asleep. "What then?" asked Mr. Watson. "What should Mercy be?" "I am quite certain," said Mrs. Watson, "that Mercy should be a princess." "Of course," said Mr. Watson. "It is obvious. Why didn't I think of that?" "You must go and find her a tiara," said Mrs. Watson, "and I will make her a princess dress." "I'm on the case," said Mr. Watson. "Oh, Mercy," said Mrs. Watson, "you will be so lovely. You will be beautiful beyond compare." Mrs. Watson measured Mercy from snout to tail. She measured her from side to side. She measured Mercy around and around and around. "Heavens," said Mrs. Watson, "I hope I have enough fabric." When Mercy woke up from her nap, Mrs. Watson was smiling at her. "Darling," said Mrs. Watson, "your dress is finished." It's a very fancy dress. "Oink," said Mercy. "I know," said Mrs. Watson. "It is stunning, isn't it? Let's try it on." Mrs. Watson put Mercy's right front leg into the dress. Mercy took her right front leg out. Mrs. Watson put Mercy's left front leg into the dress. Mercy took her left front leg out. "Goodness gracious," said Mrs. Watson. "Please hold still or we will never get this dress on." "My darlings, my dears," called Mr. Watson, "I'm home and I have located the tiara." "Oh, Mr. Watson," said Mrs. Watson, "I'm having a difficult time here. Mercy does not want to wear her princess dress." "Perhaps," said Mr. Watson, "you should tell her about the treats." Chapter 4. Mercy pricked up her ears. She liked treats. Her favorite treat of all was toast with a great deal of butter on it. "My darling," "Oh, my darling, my dear," said Mr. Watson, "if you wear this dress, everyone in the neighborhood will give you treats." Mercy closed her eyes. She could see it quite clearly. "But if you want the treats, you must wear the dress," said Mr. Watson. Mercy sighed. She allowed Mrs. Watson to put her left front leg and her right front leg into the dress. She allowed Mrs. Watson to zip the dress up. She allowed Mr. Watson to put the tiara on her head. Utterly regal, said Mrs. Watson. A porcine vision, said Mr. Watson. Mercy's stomach growled. She was looking forward to the treats. Chapter 5. On Halloween night, the doorbell rang at the Lincoln sisters' house. Ding dong. Sister, cried baby Lincoln, somebody is at the door. Of course somebody is at the door, said Eugenia. It is Halloween. People are expected to be at the door when it is Halloween. Meow, said General Washington, Eugenia Lincoln's new cat. Trick or treat, shouted Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson. Oink, said Mercy. Mercy is a princess, said Mr. Watson. She looks exactly like a princess, said Baby. She looks like a pig in a cheap dress, said Eugenia. Oh, sister, said Baby. In my opinion, said Eugenia, pigs should not go trick-or-treating. In my opinion, pigs should not pose as princesses. Meow, said General Washington. Oh, dear, said Baby Lincoln. Eugenia Lincoln slammed the door. Eugenia seems upset, said Mr. Watson. Yes, said Mrs. Watson, she does. Mercy's stomach growled. Where are the treats, she wondered. Where is the toast? Look, said Mr. Watson, I think that Baby is trying to tell us something. She waving to them. Oink, said Mercy. She kicked up her heels. She ran around to the back of the Lincoln sisters' house. Follow that princess, said Mr. Watson. Chapter 7. Baby Lincoln was waiting at the back door. Shh, she said. I'm afraid that sister is not in a Halloween sort of mood, but I could not let you leave without your treats. Yum, said Mr. Watson. What a delightful array, said Mrs. Watson. What shall we choose, Mercy? Ding dong. Baby, shouted Eugenia. Where is that treat bowl? Hurry, hurry, Baby said. Take something. Mercy examined the treats closely. She did not see one single piece of toast, but she did detect the faintest hint of butter. Butter, thought Mercy. Oh, said Baby, Mercy! Chapter 8. Oink, said Mercy. She snuffled the floor. There was a lot of candy. There was a lot of candy everywhere. Candy was not toast, but it would have to do. Mercy munched a lollipop. She ate a lemon drop. She did not like that lemon drop. She chewed a caramel. Too sticky, maybe? What is going on here? Shouted Eugenia. Why is the candy on the floor, and what is that pig doing in my kitchen? She's not a pig, said Mr. Watson. She's a princess. Mercy crunched a butter barrel. Thought Mercy. Butter. Chapter 9. Get out of my kitchen immediately, screamed Eugenia Lincoln. Well, said Mr. Watson, I think it might be time for us to skedaddle. Yes, indeed, said Mrs. Watson. We still have a lot of trick-or-treating to do. Come along, Mercy. Mercy was eating her second butter barrel. It was delicious. And there were many more butter barrels on the floor. Meow, said General Washington. He swatted at the ruffle on Mercy's dress. Yep, said Mercy. General Washington took a swipe at Mercy's tiara. Yow, said Mercy. The cat, said Mr. Watson. The pig, said Eugenia Lincoln. Oh, dear, said Baby Lincoln. The cat ran out of the kitchen. The pig ran after him. It was a chase. Mercy loved a chase. General Washington ran. Mercy ran after General Washington. Eugenia ran after Mercy. Baby ran after Eugenia. Mr. Watson ran after Baby. Mrs. Watson ran after Mr. Watson. Meow, said General Washington. Oink, said Mercy. Pig, said Eugenia. Sister, said Baby. Darling, said Mr. Watson. Dear, said Mrs. Watson. General Washington ran through the living room and back into the kitchen. He ran out the open back door. Mercy was in hot pursuit. Her dress felt a bit snug, but it did not slow her down. She was having an excellent time. Chapter 11. Frank and Stella are brother and sister. Frank and Stella live at 50 Decawoo Drive. Look at that, said Stella. What is it? Asked Frank. It's a Halloween parade, said Stella. Stand back, said Frank. It looks dangerous. Wait for me, Stella shouted. I want to be in the parade too. Stella, shouted Frank. Stella! Chapter 12. General Washington raced to the end of Decawoo Drive. He ran up the trunk of an old oak tree. Mercy stopped. Behind Mercy, Eugenia did not stop. Eugenia bumped into Mercy, Baby bumped into Eugenia, Mr. Watson bumped into Baby, Mrs. Watson bumped into Mr. Watson, Stella bumped into Mrs. Watson, and Frank bumped into Stella. Mercy looked up at General Washington. She sighed. She sat down. The chase was over. Mercy was very tired. She was very hot. Her tiara was pinching her ears. Her pink dress felt terribly snug. And even porcine princesses cannot climb trees. Chapter 13. Well, said Stella, I guess the parade's over. Nothing is over, Eugenia Lincoln shouted. She stared up into the branches of the tree. General Washington, said Eugenia, come down here immediately. Meow, said General Washington. General Washington, said Eugenia, I will not take no for an answer. Meow, said General Washington. Cats don't usually do what you ask them to, said Stella. Nonsense, said Eugenia. General Washington always obeys orders. I think that cat is stuck, said Frank. Nonsense, said Eugenia. General Washington is far too intelligent to get stuck. Eugenia called General Washington again and again, but General Washington would not move. I think, said Mr. Watson, it might be a good time to call the fire department. At the fire station, the phone rang. Ned took the call. How's that? Said Ned. General Washington, said Ned. Stuck up a tree? Said Ned. Right, said Ned. We're on our way. That was a strange call, Ned said to Lorenzo. Apparently a general is stuck in a tree. Said Lorenzo. What's the address? Somewhere on Decawoo Drive, said Ned. Decawoo Drive, said Lorenzo. That's where that pig lives. Oh boy, said Ned. We'd better hurry. Chapter 15. When Ned and Lorenzo got to Decawoo Drive, they saw a large oak tree. Underneath the oak tree was a pig in a pink dress with a tiara on her head. It's just as I suspected, said Lorenzo. There is that pig. Yes, said Ned, but where is General Washington? Oh, thank goodness you are here, said Baby Lincoln. What took you so long, said Eugenia Lincoln. Is that General Washington, said Ned. He pointed to the gray cat high in the oak tree. Of course it is, says Eugenia Lincoln. Meow, said General Washington. Lorenzo got a ladder from the truck. He leaned the ladder against the tree. He climbed up the ladder. He reached out and grabbed hold of General Washington. He climbed down the ladder. He put General Washington into Eugenia's arms. Hooray! Everyone cheered. You can always count on the fire department, said Mr. Watson. That's what I say. Oh, said Mrs. Watson, we should celebrate. We should have a party. She always wants to have a party, doesn't she? Mercy pricked up her ears. Parties, in Mercy's experience, almost always involved toast. Everyone was in the Watsons' kitchen. Everyone was gathered around the Watsons' table. Have you ever had the toast here? Lorenzo said to Stella. No, said Stella. You're in for a treat, said Ned. The toast here is excellent. Eating food at a stranger's house is potentially dangerous, said Frank. But we're not strangers, said Mrs. Watson. We are your neighbors. Meow, said General Washington. Bah, said Eugenia Lincoln. Who needs neighbors? Oh, sister, said Baby. Here, have a butter barrel. Looks like a pretty nice party, doesn't it? I like buttered toast, too. My darling, my dear, my porcine princess, said Mr. Washington. Aren't you glad you put on the pink dress? Mercy put her snout up in the air. She sniffed. Bread was toasting. Butter was melting. The pink dress was terribly snug, but it was worth it. Oink, said Mercy. Happy Halloween, my darling, said Mr. Watson. Happy Halloween, everyone. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for virtual story time. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.